Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a Flesh and Blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 72 of Flesh and Pod. I am Logan. I am your host. And with me, as always, is Suns Out, Guns Out, the one-armed bandit himself, Darick Oswald.
That, but I can't flex. Like, of course it's Suns Out, Guns Out. First of all, I look like a hot mess. Like, I can't shave properly.
You're the hottest mess. I've never seen a hotter mess in my life. Except for, Carolina does exist, but...
It was just funny because, like, I'm getting, like, a small, I don't know, like, abrasion / rash here. And my wife was like, man, you're getting a rash. And I said, yeah, it's because I haven't shaved. And she said, well, what does that have to do with, like, down here in your chest? And I said, well, when you don't trim this part, right, then eventually it pokes here whenever you're doing anything. And I've been doing a lot of this motion for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's getting my arm in and out of a sling. So it's
in theory,
you can't really do my hair well. Logan was laughing at me before we went live here because he was watching me try to put headphones on, which if you've ever tried to do that one-handed, it turns out
with
it's
your
actually
non-dominant hand. Yeah,
it's harder than you think because you just normally peel them apart and then put your ears in between them. But I kind of like had to spin it around my dome a bit. Yeah, it was weird. But anyway, my point is that you say Suns Out, Guns Out, and of course, like, I can't flex. Like, I suppose I could do this one over here, but then I might blow out that bicep and
just
show up at Baltimore looking like the guy from Office Space with my jump to conclusions mat.
Mm-hmm. That'd be wonderful. Like, I don't want you to blow your other arm out, but for the commitment to the bit, I mean, maybe, but no, please don't. Please don't. I want to see you injured. Did you actually do anything in Flesh and Blood this week? But since you had surgery like literally days ago, and for some psychopathic fucking reason, you're recording the show.
So I didn't do anything like true Flesh and Blood related. I have done a little bit of like one-handed sorting. I ordered some more supplies. I do have a box that I picked up. It's my sadness box that I'm going to do another box opening thing probably tomorrow or the night after with my wife again. She enjoyed the last experience enough that she wants to continue to be the hand model, so she'll open and I'll narrate. But
good hand model.
No, outside of that, I did some like theory crafting, refining stuff as I stared at a screen, but I didn't have the, I would say, like, fortitude to sit through games on Talishar quite yet, just because sitting at my PC the first few days was a little bit difficult, mostly just because, again, it's hard to get the arm comfortable. I'm feeling much better today. Every day it's getting better, so I imagine this week I'm going to try to jam some more Talishar games to prep for Baltimore and whatever. But this week, as anticipated, was pretty uneventful, sadly, on the Flesh and Blood front, or just on the anything front.
The doing things front.
I wish I could say that, like, I played, a ton of Marvel Snap, but even that's not true, right? Like, I just didn't really have it in me. It's been, like I said, a lot of naps and things, because I'm not comfortable. So when I do get comfortable, I just like pass out wherever I'm at to take advantage of it. So yeah, not even like Marvel Snap or I kept up on like Lorcana news. There was a bunch of rules that dropped, so I did some reading. But
yeah, there's some stuff in there. That's not so bad.
Yeah.
Lorcana is basically Keyforge. It's not so bad.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what I keep coming back to because I hear Keyforge and then I think Disney, and I'm like, all right, well, Disney, Kingdom Hearts, slam dunk. Mm-hmm. Where's my Sora
card? That makes
card?
sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I played in Armory on Thursday, played Blitz with Levia, went 2-1 in a very short one, and then played my Skirmish on Saturday and was victorious. Because I donated some Living Legend points to my girl, which, that's not a good thing necessarily. I would like her to stick around, not go anywhere, but she's not the top of the leaderboard or anything yet, so no danger yet, but it was nice to win one. Had some, obviously opponents are mostly locals, so your everybody that you've met from around here for the most part, plus some additionals. It was matchups played all different heroes every round, from starting with round 1 with Oldham, then Bolton, then Icelander, then Bravo, then what was the last round? Oh, Reinar. So yeah, there was, so it was all different heroes the whole time. But the Clean 5-0 was nice. The 30 experience is nice. The Cold Foil Azalea is sick looking. The playmat is absolutely stunning. As a Razor Reflex mat with zones on it, obviously is going to look really cool. So that, it was nice. It was nice to win one. I have another skirmish this weekend on Sunday that will be Outsider Sealed. So that'll be a good time again. A lot of it is, again, we're in that window for Nat's experience in case I just don't manage to top 4 in RTN. It's nice to have the experience under the belt. And so getting what effectively would be 10 Armory wins worth of experience in one day is quite nice. So that was my week, which is pretty good. We did, the mothership had a lot going on this week. There was a whole collector's week thing, which I'm not going to touch too. Because there wasn't much information in the posts that went live, the first 2 posts that went live since we recorded last, with the collecting post with Saint. That one was, it was an interesting read. I suggest to go read it. And there wasn't a whole lot else with the Matt Rogers PCG article, but the print run article was the shortest one of all of them. But that's a lot of information. Absolute ton of information. So they did announce the print runs for everything from the first year of Flesh and Blood. So WTR, Welcome to Wraith, Arcane Rising, and Crucible, both first edition and Unlimited. First edition was already out there for them, but Unlimited was not. And there was a lot of wild ass speculation on what these numbers would be. So a lot of people thought that the Welcome to Wraith numbers would come in the 300,000 box range, and that Arc would be around 200, and that Crucible would be about the same as Arc. Those were not the numbers. So we're going to preface this really quick. The way that LSS prefaced this, which was, these are the sets that they do not have at their own warehousing. They do not have any of this. It has all been sent out to distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And the distributors are reporting that they're out of it for the most part. So what is out there is out there. There's no secret stash. Or it sounds like that's the message I'm getting.
The secret stash is essentially history pack stuff. Correct.
Yep. And so for Welcome to Wraith Unlimited, you have 248,000 boxes. There were some real wild ass ones out there people saying, oh, it's going to come in at 500 and people are going to be, distributors are still swimming in it. Well, there are probably some distributors that still have a decent amount of it. I don't think anybody's swimming in it.
I haven't heard about anybody swimming in it in a while.
No.
As it was, there was that mini run on it when they announced the print part was done. And so I knew some distributors were still sitting on some, but swimming was not the way that I would have described.
No, not at all. And so what that translates into, I'm going to do this set by set so that we can kind of talk about it set by set. And for what that translates into, for anybody that's interested in card wise, is that means there's about 6,000 Heart of Fiendals that exist. Just that include, I believe that includes History Pack, because History Pack 1 Black Label, there's only 45,000 boxes.
Yeah, I was actually really sad to see that, because my
Bravo.
My quest for that Bravo continues, and it's not going to get any easier now.
Nope, sure isn't. But that means there's about 6,000 hearts out there, Heart of Fiendals. There's about There's about 12,500 of each legendary. So that's I don't know if I can say that's enough for demand. It's enough for demand right now, probably. Especially when you factor in history pack being out there too, and those having those legendaries in it. But then this is specific to WTR. And then because there's only 10 Majestics in WTR, this number is fucked. There are the same number of each Majestic foil as there are of each heart. So there are 6,200 of each Majestic foil. Which means when you see that Enlightened Strike foil number, that's real. Because each one of those is as rare as a Heart of Fyendal.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And so and if you start drilling that down, that means there's only under or right at roughly 3,000 or 2,000 playsets of each Majestic foil in WTR. That's not a lot.
That's not a lot.
Just saying, that's not a lot. And so when we're looking at this from a non-foil perspective, there's about 16,500 playsets of each non-foil Majestic. So there are about 16,500 playsets of Black Bordered and Enlightened Strikes right now, not counting foreign Black Bordered. So and then Blood Rush Bellow, same thing. So I think that those are fine for demand. Like, I think that for right now, and then you can count like history pack kind of filling in the blanks for new people and new and entry level points in the game, because history pack's still being printed kind of it's TBA, right? Like they haven't stopped printing it. So that's going to be, but you're probably looking at these Black Border pieces being actually holding value over time, because there's less of them than people thought in some of these cases.
I mean, especially like I'm looking at the Arcane Rising stuff specifically, and this is really funny the way this worked out, because I have opened a not insignificant amount of Welcome to Wrath, and right now I own a Tectonic Plating. It was the first legend I ever opened, and then the Heart that I finally picked up from Keith, and then that's it. Like, I don't own any of the other legends from Welcome to Wrath, right? But Arcane Rising, that I've opened 2 boxes of ever, but just because of either getting lucky while playing limited or like some trades that I was making at the time, whatever, I own all of the stuff that you could want from Arcane Rising somehow, like full play sets of like Art of War, Command and Conquer. I own an Eye, and I own one of each of the legends from the set. So, you know, like, yeah, I could say, okay, maybe I want, foil Command and Conquerors or Art of Wars and be greedy. But for the most part, like, I own everything there is to own from that, and I'm missing so much Welcome to Wrath.
Just need a list. And Arcane Rising is fascinating. The next 2 caught me so far off guard that I was like, what the fuck just happened? So Arcane Rising Unlimited, 179,000 boxes, 70,000 less boxes than WTR. So at that point in time, you're looking at, there are about 4,500 Eye of Ophidias. And I've opened 2 of them. But there are about 4,500 Eye of Ophidias, which is, again, we're a wise man who's not really wise. He only has 1 brain cell. We all know who we're talking about. Once told me that the reason that Eye of Ophidia isn't played as much as it could be is because people don't own them. Because if he had one, he would shove it in basically every deck.
Because it's pretty good.
Because it's good. And we're kind of seeing the why here. 4,500 isn't a lot. That is a very low number. Yes, that is 4,500 playsets because you only ever need 1. But 4,500 is a low ass number. Which again, same number of each Majestic foil in Arcane Rising. So those Command and Conquers are probably not going to be as cheap as $250 a piece for long. that's probably not holding.
What I am interested long term, and I understand that we don't have this number yet, but I want to know, when all is said and done, what the difference in print run is between like Unlimited Foil Command and Conquer and Fable Command and Conquer.
I am very interested by that. That is one of those I'm going to keep an eye on.
Yeah, me
because
too.
we don't know anything about Dynasty.
No, not yet. Anyway.
Not yet. But that could be very interesting. Those numbers could be closer than you think. And if that's the case, there's room in both directions for the fabled ones to come down a bit, and then the rainbow foils to go up quite a bit. So I think that they'll meet somewhere in the middle, but that means that the stock you want to be holding right now is the Arcane Rising Command and Conquer foils. But you're staring at 9,000 of each legendary, which, that would track, right? Which, when you're starting to see upticks in play of like Skullbone Crosswrap, that makes sense why we saw that number come up. Because that means that there aren't that many of them, and with Azalea being good now, and that being one of the key pieces of her equipment kit, that's important to have one, and there's not as much Arcane Rising, so it makes it more difficult. Especially since there's also Skullcap you can pull in there, and there's
a lot of really good equipment there, because Grasp is great, Storm Striders is great. I mean, the reality is, with the exception of Crosswrap, Arcane used to be the money set. Like,
right.
When you could find it, it was almost always like, if you buy a box, as long as you're willing to put the time into like piecing it out, you would get your money back. Because again, all it took was, even if you didn't hit a legendary, right? All it took was one Command and Conquer, or like an Art of War, and then a couple of decent pieces, or any of the legends that wasn't Crosswrap at the time, because all of the other stuff were still sought after and playable. So just a really good set. Like, when you look back at it, you're just kind of like, wow. Because I mean, even Dash, who isn't necessarily somebody who's been at the top of popularity, she's becoming more popular, but her chess piece has always held up really well as well, just because it's so like integral to what she wants to do. So
yeah, it's quite interesting that the way that Dash is set up to be just like, almost like Dromai and Prism, right? Have their stands. People that will always be mechanologists. I guess Wizard is the same way now too, right? There are just Wizard stands out there. They're in Runeblade stands. God, there's stands for every fucking class, aren't there? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot of simps that play this game. At any rate, not you. Well, yeah.
I'm
talking to everybody. Yep, you're an assassin simp. Never again. I am. I'm a warrior. I try not to be. But I probably, if they're going to classify myself at this point, I am a warrior person. So
until they print that Earth Brute.
Fuck. Everybody's an Earth Brute at that point in time. It's printing Starvo. Everybody's a Starvo at that point. Fuck Christ. Like, everybody's just gonna play fucking Earth Brute. Channel Mount Heroic, Reinhardt, go Burr. What the fuck ever. There's a lot of room still in Arcane Rising, and Arcane Rising has spiked quite hard. Not necessarily the singles, but the sealed has seen a giant price jump. I have a case sitting behind me unopened, and I'm just like, well, you're staying there. That's not coming out. Which is fun because I've got a case of WTR back there, a case of Arcane Rising, and a case of Crucible. And Crucible is criminally underprinted. That set is fucking wild. 125,000 boxes. That's it. That's real fucking small. And luckily it's only a 2 legend set. So there are still 6,200-ish of each legendary, being Krunic and Shiana.
Yeah, but if you're a Viserai stan,
oh boy, there's only about 3,100 Arcanite shards out there. Ouch.
Yeah.
The panic buying of the Arknight Shard once this article came out was one of my favorite things to watch. At one point in time, the cheapest Arknight Shard out there was $1,300 because everybody was like, "Oh shit!" when they saw that number, and just jumped. And then they read the card and went, "Oh, you can only play this in Viserai? Ah, fuck. Well, probably shouldn't have paid $800 for it," and then settle back down into the 700.
Yeah, that one's so weird. Like, I want one.
It's so good in just that deck.
But the thing is it is literally just Viserai. Like, even though I'm also very hard Guardian player as well, like, I don't own the Guardian Fable, and that one's not even like hero specific, right? Like, even
That's
Plague
Guardian.
Hive here, Plague Hive, you hit a couple of classes, but with Shard, man, it's just Viserai, right? Like, that's so, I don't know, rough. But like, I also want one. I'll be honest, I want one because it's pretty. Like, I think of the gem art pieces, it's probably my favorite because I'm a big purple simp. Like, I'll just be honest, like, it's my favorite color, purple and orange, or where it's at. So it's probably my favorite gem as far as the art goes.
Yeah, it is gorgeous as far as the way the card looks. And there's only 2 heroes that can play it. So it's just Viserai and Shiana. That's it. And Viserai is living legend out in Blitz and hard neutered in CC right now with no blood sheath. And Shiana is a meme. A fun as fuck meme, but a meme.
She's getting stronger every set.
Every set. It just keeps coming. Someday somebody's going to break it and start winning these skirmishes with fucking Shiana. But
no, man, I can't wait until we start getting some specializations that are also like attack reactions so that you can shake down somebody and then play somebody else's specialization to like trigger it. Oof. Like, I know that you could also just like run pummel or whatever anyway, but right. I want specifically like the double dip sauce,
Yeah, there's definitely something about like ripping off a specialization and then ripping off a specialization behind it to trigger the specialization on the first one you played. Like, I get it. And that deck is, especially since you get to play the 3 blue Riptide traps in that deck, it's getting way more fun.
Yeah.
To just do random shit.
I owned a Shiana. I would actually play it at locals.
Yeah, I do every now and again, and I just built it as money pile, but now I need foils of all the Riptide traps because you have to play either foils, foreigns, or promos in that deck. There's no other reason. Like, the Crazy Brews in it are the cold foil Crazy Brew promos. Like, it's pretty well shined out. I need another Fabled Command and Conquer for it. Which
I think I have 2 of the 3 Riptides in foil.
I only have 1 of them, so we may be able to pair that out to get me to where I need to be. But the deck is fun as fuck to play. Like, you do some stupid shit in that deck. We do play Crazy Brew Life of the Party as well, because why wouldn't you?
Just because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, just why wouldn't you? So it's a ton of fun. And anybody that's looking for like to have some fun at locals or whatever, go ahead and jam that bitch. But don't expect it to be good. It's sweet, but there's always a difference between sweet and good. Every now and again you get something that is both, but it's rare. And when you find that, you hold on to it for dear life.
I think I need to get myself a Shiana and build the deck. Hear me out. I want to, I think, start carrying around in my fab backpack, because I have a number of things that I always carry around with me. I think I want to carry around a pre-built Emperor and a pre-built Shiana, just so that you can like play the 2 fun memes against each other for like a pickup game. Like, if somebody doesn't want to think through because it's nice and it's Blitz and whatever, just like, hey, it's almost like Dan
and Magic.
Yeah, just having them ready to go. I think that would be nice.
I think that'd be interesting. Like, let's take a sidebar really quick, and we'll get back into Crucible, because we're known for very much so staying right to topic all the time and never delineating ever. But let's take a quick aside here. What do you think of building a kind of a casual, so a lot of things are legal, Flesh and Blood battle box where you have you just have 6 heroes in it that are built, that are not optimized. They have to be something that is never good. So it has to be like Yoji, and who got living legend points this week. Oh, what the fuck ever. Data Doll, and also got living legend points. Shiana, the Emperor, Valda, things like that. And that have not, I guess that'd be a good way to do it. They can never have had an adult hero. And you build 6 decks, throw it in the battle box, and then you sit down with somebody and you say, let's play in the battle box, and then you each roll a dice, and that's the deck you get. And then you just bash. I think that'd be fun as hell. And and like build all of them. Build Guinness What You Need and Cavdane, and just like build the entire suite of everybody. Well, not Kasai. Leave Kasai out.
This is actually fantastic because, hear me out, I think that that's something that would be great to do for bringing it to these bigger conventions, but I think that also helps me with a separate project that I'd been trying to think through that I wanted to work on this week. So obviously I've opened a lot of Outsiders, and let's be honest, I'm nowhere near done because my quest for assassin stuff continues, which means I have got a lot of bulk. And I was like, all right, well, I want to do something with the bulk, which meant probably making some like commoner Blitz decks to hand out for new players. Like I was just going to make up a bunch of them and then drop them off at my local game stores to say, hey, if people are coming in, like feel free to hand these out. But now I kind of feel like I want to make one for each of the stores, a battle box, like you were saying, because Outsiders just very conveniently has 6 young heroes I can make commoner decks for. And just say, hey, if people are looking to try the game out, here are 6 pre-built decks. They can roll a die, pick one, and go with it.
Yeah.
Because I've got more than enough to make and drop that off at, 3 or 4 stores locally. Like, that's actually a really fantastic idea.
I'm glad I helped. But it's like we had to, but making the list, like I said, there are some heroes that would be disqualified. Like, there's no Kasai. You can't put Kasai in there. She's actually too good.
I think that you can, because it's a pre-built deck. So you just don't build like Turbo Kasai.
You have to tune it way down.
So part 2 of this is the other thing I'd been considering was like pre-building some of my Rainbow Ultimate Pit Fighter decks.
Oh, sure.
So I was going to think about building somewhere between like 3 and 4 of them to maybe bring to Baltimore for downtime. But that's like same premise, right? Like you just pre-build it and you build it with power level in mind for all of the other decks. So like, I think throwing Kasai in is fine as long as you don't give her the full suite.
No blood on her hands ever. You also no spoils of war. Nope. Absolutely not. I would allow an out for blood, and I think you can play, I don't know what number of go again effects you can play, but you have to tone it down. So, sure. But the go again effects are what make the deck good. And Blood on Her Hands is just an insane finisher. So, it is what it is. I got to fatigue an Icelander with that deck. And it was piloted by Dagon White, which is the funnier part of the entire story. And he'll say technically not fatigued because he was going to be dead through damage when he picked his cards up, which is true. But they got to the point where he had, I think, 1 source of arcane damage left in his deck. And he had it was a fused Ice Eternal. And I had pitch deck nothing but blues on the bottom of my deck. So he Ice Eternally gave me 4 Frostbites. And I'm like, cool. AB 3 of it, take 1, go to 2. And then Glint for pay 4. Like for Glint the Steel Blade. He's like, yeah, okay. Like, all right, good enough. So that was one of the more fun instances, and I did get to kill some of the Shunt, which is always the best feeling. That's how we ended Bolt. That's how we ended the Bolton, and the Bolton player was super happy because warriors who get killed by Shunts it's mad respect the entire time. It's like, all right, That's great. So, good times there. But I think that you could also build this kind of like battle box concept in a way where the decks are tuned, right?
Oh yeah, you could for sure.
But you'd have to leave out the heroes that when tuned are too good. That's what I was thinking with like Kasai. You definitely, in that type of box, cannot put a Kasai in there. Like,
yeah, not unless you're also
just
putting Kano and a bunch of other stuff in there.
Right. But if you're sticking with the young hero only, like a tuned Data Doll versus a tuned Valda is probably fine.
No. Valda's gonna mop the floor with Data Doll.
Oh, we'll build this and go then, because Data Doll is great.
I mean, Data Doll is great, but so is a Guardian with extra health.
That's only one. What's the worst that can happen? Having 3 intellect versus more health? No big deal.
Right.
Turtle, Data Doll. Let's go. But diving back to where we were in the first place, which is Crucible. So this 125,000 boxes is big woof. Because yes, there are Majestics show up at a higher rate in a box of Crucible. However, because of how little boxes there are only right at 7,000 playsets of the Majestics in Crucible. That's not a lot. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot from Crucible that I don't have playsets of. Even I play that I just like never needed a playset of. So like I'm thinking about like I don't have a playset of Mangles, for example, because I was never running the full playset anyway. So I was just like, oh,
Sure.
I need them. But like even cards that I run,
Flood of Force.
Yeah.
Unified Decree.
Ninja stuff for sure.
Yeah. There are Fine Center. Like there are so many just like random decent Majestics out of that set. Spoils of War. Like eventually, and I know that kind of before your time, which is we're at the point where there is actually like a lot to talk about, that is PD and AD, or BC and AD, so before Charmer and after Darick, that we talked about in this show now. But one of the BC topics was that the supplemental sets, whenever you see these supplemental sets and people kind of shit on them a little bit, you run the risk of getting hit really bad if you don't just like pick the stuff up, because getting crude is a real thing. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, oh, I know I have that card, and then you start searching through shit. It's like you search through like let's say you're missing Massacre. It's a good example. It's like, oh, I'm sure I've got those. You find a list you like, and you're like, oh, Massacres, yeah, I got those. And you start searching through sets that had Brood in them. You're like, where the fuck is this card? And then you look and you see the set, the set symbol, and you're just like, oh shit, it's Crucible.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that.
That happened to me. Gosh, like right after Starvo season ended, and I wanted to pick Chain back up because I hadn't played Chain since like pre-seeds or whatever, because that's what got me into the game. And I was like, man, I haven't played Chain in a while. We'll give this a go. And I was preparing for an event, and I was trying to sleeve up my deck, and I realized I didn't own any yellow Mauve Skies. And that's a rare. But it was just like,
that's a rare.
I don't own any yellow Mauve Skies, apparently. Whoops. Hope they got them at the store.
Mm-hmm. And that's right there. Like, even if you stare at some of the rares from Crucible, your is it Breaking Scales? No, not Breaking Scales. That's not the rare. Purge Grapplers is one of them, right? The rare equipment suite. You've got Purge Grapplers, Centauri Sabers. What is the ninja one? Man, is it Breaking Scales? I thought that was that's in WTR. I hate blanking.
I was gonna say, I don't know if they have an equipment piece. Do they?
There's a rare equipment piece in Crucible. I'm just gonna live look this up because I feel like a fucking idiot right now. But there is a rare equipment piece for Ninja that's not Harmonized Kadachi. Yes, I know that's in there. Card galleries, let's go. Those are a lot of Blitz decks. Promo cards. Those are all hero decks. Oh, they have them as a sliding gallery. I love, you know how much I love those. Why? Can we get some web design discussions? Because that's just inefficient and unacceptable.
Well,
Like
I mean,
scrolling galleries.
I'm on Fabrary, so there's Zephyr Needle and Breeze Rider boots.
Breeze Rider boots. That's the one. So that's the majestic boots that people are always like, yeah, I have those. They're in one of those sets, and it's like, shit, it's not. Because that's it's a very close to being a Snapdragon Scalers that blocks in Ninja. It isn't quite, but it's close. And the other one everyone forgets about is Heron's Flight, which is a Crane Dance combo card. But it's...
Yeah, that one wasn't blue pitch, so everyone forgot about it.
Yeah, forgot it existed.
Like Fine Center, but...
Right. Fine Center you played in the decks even when you can't combo with it. But it was also, you put the combo line available in the list so that if you got the Fine Center off against a Prism, you just basically auto won. It was fairly amusing to Fine Center to get to Zen State, and then all right. Looks like Prism's gonna have a bad couple of turns. But neither here nor there. But an interesting thing is when you start talking about these supplemental sets that you don't draft and stuff like that, one, they're just less open in general in the amount of time it takes usually to just build kind of organically the sets of cards. So you wind up in a spot where you didn't open enough of that to just complete a playset organically. Whereas with Uprising, if you didn't complete a set of Uprising organically, you just didn't draft for 9 months because it was the only fucking thing to draft for 9 months. So like most everybody was able to put together a set of Uprising organically or close to it. But like with these supplemental sets, is not the same thing. And with how small Crew's print run is, that's complicated. We also got some first edition print run information. So Monarch First is 125,000 boxes, so it's the same print run as Crucible Unlimited. And that's a little interesting. I think a lot of people thought that number was a lot higher, but that's because it felt like Monarch First was available for literally ever. And those case prices and box prices has shot up pretty high at this point.
Yeah.
There was also... Tails First. This is the one that also sent people into a spiral, because the Tails First print run is 208,000 boxes, which is higher than everything else outside of WTR Unlimited for what they had listed till that point, with an unlimited printing behind it. That's an important caveat, because Everfest is 229,000. Everfest Unlimited exists.
It does exist.
It does exist. They have not said whether or not they're ever going to distribute it. But it exists. It is sitting there. We know that. But we don't know if they're ever going to release it in the wild. So it'd be very interesting, because if there's 208,000 boxes of Tails First, do you think there's more or less Tails Unlimited?
Oh, that's a tough question. My gut reaction says that there's probably less Unlimited, but I also know that we had that big chunk of time where we did not have Uprising, and like that's all we were using for draft. And so it wouldn't shock me if it's also just like in a very similar ballpark numbers wise between the two.
I get the feeling that Tails was supposed to be the next flagship set in a lot of ways. So I could see it being 208 and 300. because there's a ton of tails out there still. You can still just get tails.
Yeah.
Whenever you want it. It's right now, from the limited distributors I've talked to, or the limited stores I've talked to about this, right now it is harder for them to get Uprising than it is to get tails. And so that can tell you enough right there. And obviously it's harder to get Everfest. There's 229,000 boxes of Everfest, and that's the only printing. But they still are able to get it, and they can get as much history pack as they want. Like, they are swimming. Like, if you want to talk about swimming in something, what they're swimming in is history pack.
Right. And that's the way it should be, in my mind.
Correct. Like, and that makes total sense to me. Swimming in history pack, obviously.
I think once they get this cadence down for the history packs and how they want to do this, I actually think what we're going to end up seeing is that a lot of these sets that don't have an unlimited run, maybe not this first year because they're still in the middle of kind of like figuring that out, but it would not surprise me if at some point we get to the point where your base sets actually have much smaller print runs, and then they just speed up the hitting of the white border like history pack stuff as you're unlimited, right? I think that makes the most sense because that appeases both collectors but also helps keep the game accessible. I don't know, there's a lot to like there. It's so interesting to me because I also look at this and, like, on the one hand, Tales has a lot out there for first, but also, like, when I think about the longevity of the game, 208,000 boxes of Tales first is, like, not a lot.
No.
You know, like, I'm just trying to imagine now, granted, we have to get there, but, like, I'm imagining, you know, any sets of Magic from, like, 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever, and thinking, like, you know, 208,000 boxes.
It's a Tuesday, right? Like,
yeah.
That, I mean, nowadays they overprint everything and inundate you with a set every 2 weeks. That's Magic's or WotC's new thing. But, like, when you stare at these, like, as an example, right? Like, let's just take this and extrapolate it over something else. Let's say that the printing of the of first chapter of Lorcana is the same as Arc Unlimited. That's not enough.
No.
Like, that's not close. And that probably holds true for all of these numbers, to be honest. Like, I don't think the 248 is even enough.
No, I don't think so either. But the reality is that one's a little bit of a different beast just because we also know the distribution model is going to be different, right?
Sure.
Like, Lorcana, they're already talking about they want to sell packs in, like, Target, the Disney parks. Well, and big box too, but also, like,
stores,
Disney parks and whatever. And so when you start factoring those in, like, 500,000 boxes is still probably not enough even at that point, and that's double, you know, the highest amount that's on this print run update that we got. So
yeah, but if this, like, honestly, if the momentum of Flesh and Blood continues on an upward trend for the next 3 years or whatever, boxes and cases of the first year of just the unlimited of these sets are going to be super expensive compared to what you're seeing right now. I mean, it's going to take a long time to get to Magic expensive, but even in, like, 3 or 4 years, right now a case of Arc, I believe, is around $500, give or take. I think that's going to be easily $1,500 in 3 or 4 years on the current trajectory. Just if it keeps growing at roughly the same rate as it is now in 3 or 4 years, probably an easy $1,500. That's my guess. But it could be more. If they see just a giant explosion in growth, that all changes again.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of underlying factors there, but sealed product is always interesting because it is a number that only goes down.
Right.
It's not even like, oh, it stays the same. Like, it only goes down because the people who buy it, you know, some people buy it because they want the sealed product and other people buy it because they want to open it, right? Whether that's, hey, I want to run this special tournament, Keith, or hey, I want to do, this content thing, right? Like maybe you're an unboxing content creator, whatever the case may be, right? The amount of sealed product only ever goes down, and most often the longer these games stick around, your player base goes up. So
Yeah, no, it's absolutely
more
true.
so than the cards, the sealed product tends to spike in, I think, very unpredictable ways. Like, you're absolutely right, it could be 1,500, it could be, it could be less, it could be like triple that. It's very hard to tell. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how much it catches on long term overseas, right? Like, we're already seeing some of the initial like spike from Japanese players picking up the game, but if they stick with the game and they really like it, and knowing what we know about like that collector base, it could make things crazy.
Yeah, it could get exponential real
Potentially.
fast. I mean, it's possible. We spent a lot of time on this topic, so thank you all for hanging out while we nerded out a little bit over some numbers and speculation. But let's get to Battle Hardened Richmond. This was a fairly interesting tournament, to be honest. You had 92 players, which, I mean, it's a Battle Hardened, sure. Top 8 was Alexi and Azalea, so just one Azalea, 2 Oldhim, 1 Dash, 1 Bravo, 1 Dromai, and 1 Azuri. And the Oldhams were 1 mid-range, 1 Fatigue. The finals was Oldhim versus Oldhim. Stop me if you've heard that one. With Pat Eshke, bless you, taking it down in what looked to be a giant slugfest with 43 Sledge of Anvilheim swings in the game. Okay, that's the world we live in. Not going away anytime soon. How do you feel about Oldhim versus Oldhim finals, untimed?
How do I feel about it?
How do you feel?
I feel tired just thinking about it. That's what I feel. But like, jokes aside, I'm not surprised by it. I do think that the one event, in Chicago, I felt like that was a good glimpse into the future of the Flesh and Blood meta. But we also said that weekend, and a lot of us have said several times since then, that just because an Oldhim or an Icelander didn't win at all doesn't mean that they are to be counted out. They're still very strong. Like, nothing really changed there. You've got a lot of players that are very good on those heroes. They're capable. So I'm not surprised. I also, again, felt like Guardians were in a decent spot. You and I have said it. I know Flake has said it, and I've had many conversations with him that I think that both Bravo and Oldhim are in good positions. And then, hey, lo and behold, we have 2 Oldhims and 1 Bravo in that top 8. The thing that really stood out to me from this event, specifically outside of the Oldhim versus Oldhim, was 2 bits of information. The first is that Icelander somehow had less representation than in Chicago, and I expected that to rebound. I do not think that will hold for long. She is also still very, very good, and I still firmly believe that as people go into this meta, there's going to be like a temptation to forego Arcane Barrier or not go heavy on it, and then you're going to see both Icelander and or Kano shine as a result. Again, don't, I think, take this as the end all be all, but I'm just surprised that there were so few in total at this event. The other thing that stood out to me was how quickly players learned, because I was following the coverage on Twitter, because we don't have the games yet, but Ethan had posted one of the photos in the top 8 of the Uzuri and the Oldhim when they were across from each other, and then the Oldhim flipped Sledge. And I thought to myself, wow, somebody was really paying attention, because that is, in my opinion, the right equipment to play into her, because we've already seen how well she can make Rampart feel useless, right? So I wondered if it was going to take some time before folks adapted, or if it would be like that quick. And so I should have never doubted Flesh and Blood players. They're all really smart, but like, I'm just so like both like happy, but also sad as an assassin player that people are catching on, that they realized how good Scale Peeler is. And so they were just like, oh, by the way, I guess I just don't run a shield. The other thing I was expecting to potentially see was people trying, Stalagmite a bit more too, but I still feel like Sledge is ultimately the right way to take on that matchup. So it was just interesting that literally the next event that we had, the thing that I expected to happen popped up in the top 8. So
yeah, it looks like I may have to start eating some crow too, because one of the key cards from what I was reading in the matchup that won it was Vambrace of Determination. Okay. It was a big deal for Sam in Chicago, and it turned out to be a big deal here too.
It's a good card, and there's a lot of classes that don't have good arms.
That's true, but
like I'll go back to my original thing when everyone was dogging it, and I'll say it's a generic legendary that has I think a strong value across a number of potential matchups. And so even if it's not your go-to, you're going to likely consider it at least in your lineup, right? It's it doesn't have to be the best, but it's like just good enough. And I think people were, because when it was released, people were like, man, that card is awful. And I was
I mean, I was one of them. So there is that. But yeah, you know what else? You know how many Codex of Frailties were there in the finals?
It was just the Azalea, right? Or what? No, Lexi.
No, in the finals.
Oh, in the finals, there was 0.
There was 0.
It was Oldham. I was thinking top 8, because even top 8,
I think there were 9 in the top 8. Because there was 3. There's Azuri, Lexi, Azalea.
Yeah, I forgot about the Lexi. So but they were running them,
Yeah, and because you'd run it if you could, but they were, it back to the point. That was week 1. Week 2 is not an Azalea mirror in the finals. And there's only one Azalea in the top 8. There are 2 Rangers, but there was only one Azalea. And there were no Codexes in the finals. So is the sky still falling? Has it gone back up? I don't know. I can't keep track.
Do we happen to know who the Azalea player was? Question. I know exactly who it was.
It was Brody Spurlock.
It was Brody, who is good on just about anything he plays, but also the person who won the last time. So even in those instances, you can be like, well, like, is it Codex or is it Brody? Because right now, there's a lot of talk about Azalea, but the only Azaleas that I've seen so far are Brody
and Levi Roush,
the Prodigy, and then literally Azalea's son. Like, I'm convinced that Levi goes home and
to Azalea
tucks him in at night and gets into his little race car bed, and Azalea tucks him in and reads him a book.
Az is actually who tucks him in, because Azalea is too busy making money. But so it's probably Az that tucks him in. I think Az is the stay-at-home dad here. But the for me, because your Lexi player is Matt McInnes.
Yeah.
And while a lot of people might not know who Matt is off the top of their head, unless they just, see him trailing around Carolina, love you, Matt. The point is, he's fucking good. Like, he does know how to play this game, and he knows how to play it at a high level. So
a lot of really good players at this Battle Hardened. Obviously, Pat is very good and ended up taking it down. Even folks who just missed the top 8, but they were doing well earlier in the day. Like, I know Charles showed up unfatigued him as well. And I was actually kind of
was X2, I think. And then made the top 8 of the PTI event with Dromai, because she doesn't actually know how to read cards that don't have illusionist in their text box.
Yep.
And then it was a very, the field was not an easy field by any stretch of the imagination. That's the thing about Battle Hardened. When you have a 92-person Battle Hardened, it's probably 75 grinders and 17 locals. That's probably actually your Battle Hardened composition. We used to call them try-hardens, because that's kind of how it felt, is you get a bunch of people who are there to grind, because there's a PTI involved, and those float, baby. You don't need to spend those anytime that you don't want to. That's a lot. That makes a big difference. So people do show up for those. Grinders specifically show up for those. Oddly enough, Dromai was the most played deck on the week, in the event with 15 copies, followed by Lexi at 14. Which, switching to Lexi, that's interesting. I know that that Flake and our buddy Mikey, Nick Bolus, have had some success playing that deck on Talishar and streaming with it, but to see that be the second most represented deck and only be one behind the most represented deck was kind of shocking to me. And Oldham at 11 was zero shock. Like, none.
It's shocking, but it's not. I really want to make a lightning pun because it's Lexi, but the reality is when you look at Chicago, Dromai was most represented, and then it was Azalea with, 15 and 14. And then we look at this event and it's literally Dromai is the most represented, and instead of Azalea now it's Lexi. But if you're somebody who wants to pick up Ranger and you are not somebody who has been grinding it, you're not a Levi, you're not a Matt or whatever, then I think that you're entirely fine picking up one or the other. So I think you're going to see the number of Azaleas and Lexis kind of flip-flop, because the reality is, outside of the Azalea specializations, there's not a lot of reason to go specifically with her over Alexi, because so many of the cards that are good in Ranger right now are just Ranger, right? So I think that it's just going to come down to like a player preference. And if you're somebody who prefers just a little bit more go wide, you're probably fine just loading up Lexi anyway. Like, you don't get red in the ledger, but who cares? Like, you can still fire a ton of arrows. Maybe you just really like your 3 of a kind turns. And if you're somebody who just really likes the on-hit effects, you're coming from Guardian or whatever, and you want to try Ranger, then you go with Azalea. But I'm not like super surprised that Lexi had that big of a hike. It's, again, to me, the things that just stand out are like Icelander had abysmal showing. I thought after Kano,
right?
I thought after Kano did well at the one event, we'd see some more folks trying Kano. Non-existent. Riptide didn't show up at all. Like,
Leviah didn't show up at all.
It was just low number of Briars overall, I still feel like, as well.
4, I think.
Yeah,
it's not a lot. But and you're right. Like, the representation is so weird right now, and that is actually a good thing.
No, it is a good thing.
Big fan. So we also have Skirmish Season 6 happening right now, and that's not necessarily as flashy as Battle Hardens with PTIs and cool shit like that. Instead, it's, kind of your casual introduction. Like, we've talked about this before, but there are living legend points at stake. And that does matter sometimes for things like Worlds, where we saw Blitz be a part of it. So if we're going to continue to see these sorts of events with Blitz as part of them that are major, this living legend board matters. And Icelander picked up 34 wins in week 1 of Skirmish.
Yeah, it turns out Icelander's still a good hero.
That's 68
even
Blitz,
but also in CC. So
yeah. So that skyrocketed her up to 414 on the points on the living legend board. She's in danger now of being gone, which I'm all for. Please get rid of Icelander. Oldham's at 468 after 8 wins. That's getting dangerous too. We might see both of them living legend out in during the Skirmish season. Kasai did have 10 wins, which is more than I would expect, just from the, typically Kasai has a very hard time with the arcane heroes, so not very hard to, you're racing a Kano, so your draws have to line up and then not get one-shotted.
Right.
And then against Icelander, again, it's kind of the same story, except for you have to play her on the Frostbites. Hopefully your blue count can sustain it. You almost have to play AB3, so really the only thing you have going for you equipment-wise that is not one of your arcane barrier pieces is just your courage. And a lot of times that also makes it so that your courage is not as impactful because they can respond to it by giving you Frostbites. So it's a very hard matchup as well. So Kasai getting 10 wins was a lot. I feel like if we lose Icelander and Oldhim, Kasai starts to become the top tier Blitz deck, because the only real predator out there for her is Kano. And Kano only had 3 wins. Kano only getting 6 points was kind of shocking.
I am curious to see what the meta looks like if we start to lose some of the arcane heroes just in general, because I do feel like, Riptide hasn't had a lot of representation in Classic Constructed, but I think a lot of that has to do with the inflated health pools. But I do think that young Riptide in Blitz actually has the potential to be incredibly dangerous, especially in a meta where folks are not preparing or not having to go all in for the Kano or even just for the Icelander. Like, if you have a meta where Kasai starts to shine and folks are really going on like that end, I could actually see Riptide pop up as a viable like counter strategy, because a lot of Riptide's tools are also just very anti-Kasai in general. So
anti-warrior, really.
Yeah, anti-warrior, but let's be honest, if you're playing warrior and Blitz, you're playing Kasai, so you
should be. Because a lot of those traps target Go Again. A lot of those traps, a couple of those traps target, the attack having a attack power greater than its base. These are all things that Kasai does on a regular basis.
Even the Blood Rot one, where if they've used a reaction, turns out like warriors like attack reactions too. So
they do, because most of the time to get Go Again, you require one of those unless it's a Spoils of War turn. So that is a very real thing. Blocking for 3 and dealing 1 damage is quite good, turns out. So that's
I get to run a bunch of shunts. I like that.
Right. I run nothing. My entire deck is Steelblade Shunt. Can you win? Well, that's difficult all of a sudden, but it's possible still. I have played into a Riptide with Kasai. It was way harder than I thought. But I believe that we have to see a trap that does something to arcane damage before Riptide is ever going to be in that tier that you need it to be in.
Yeah.
To be good. But you get that arcane damage trap. Oh boy. That starts to get real saucy real fast, because those limited health pools go down faster. And Wizard starts at 30 in CC and 15 in Blitz.
I really wish that Riptide also came with something that was like a rune chant, but for traps specifically. I really like the idea of playing Riptide as Macaulay Culkin, where you're like building your Home Alone like setup, right? And
I don't know why I don't know why I didn't treat this as a meme. I was taking you seriously.
Hear me out, right? Like the same way that Prism has spectral shields, if Riptide had something similar where you were able to generate some sort of aura or token, and then when you triggered a trap, it did bonus damage per like thing, or like a rune chant, right? I think that would make sense. Like you're putting extra pits in the pit trap, or you're, putting extra bear traps down for whatever. Like, because the reality is right now when you're playing him, you either play him as a ranger and the other rangers just do offensive things better, or you're trying to play defensive and get your pings in, but the pings right now don't feel like enough, especially in CC. So if you had a way to amplify the pings, a la, again, something like a rune chant, or the same way that Prism did damage with spectral shields, right? Like in my mind, that's how you make him stand out with his traps. And so, yes, I'm using the meme of the visualization of Macaulay Culkin setting all these traps in the home, right? But I think that's kind of what he needs. He needs something to like give you a little bit more oomph.
A paint can trap and what is it? A hot foot trap, or there was a broken Lego trap, a D4 trap. We can keep going on a lot of these, but
he needs
I guess
he needs a damage reflection. You need something that says like,
We talked about putting deflecting palm as a trap, and that's
it
fucking
blocks
scary.
for 3. It needs to like block for 3, but then it also needs to say like, if all of the damage of this is blocked, instead deal that to your opponent. So like if they go up over, then the damage still goes through. But if it's, 3 or less, or maybe it only blocks for 2, maybe it's a blue pitch blocks for 2, but same thing, right? Like if it blocks the full 2 or 1 or whatever, they take that damage back.
So what happens if you block a pulverize with it, and yet other things cover up the pulverize except for those 2? They take 14.
If you can have it cover it up, I think that you deserve that. if you play the trap and like double staunch response or whatever, I think you deserve it. It's like a 5-card hand to stop their big combo. They were trying to do that much damage. I think that you should just be able. I'm fine with that.
That could kill an Oldhim. That sounds fine to me. I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
Like that gives them something to play around.
Like there are times where I'm like, that sounds ridiculous, but you know what? If you can do it, I think you deserve it.
If you can get 12 of it plus this 2, bless up.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. I mean, it's not that hard. God, I watched, what was it? I think it was 13 Dominate, and just Dagon casually blocked it all. I'm like, fucking goddamn it. But there's also the May Armory kit is out there, and it's Big Daddy Riptide for all of us that are excited to see our ranger our ranger avatar in Wraith represented on a playmat. You can now get a Big Daddy Riptide adult playmat. There's still no zones on it, which fucking savage. But the extended art rainbow foils are one of each of the traps. So in this case, the yellow traps, Tar Pit, Pendulum, and Boulder. And the cold foils, Driftwood Quiver, which, sure. If you're going to play Riptide, you're probably playing Driftwood Quiver, so sure, that's fine. I like the fact that I do like when Armory kits are themed to the set they're representing. And if they can keep up the set cadences, I can't wait to have the light Runeblade Viserai playmat and the Warrior Illusionist Prism playmat. I think those will both be will be super cool to look at.
I'm really looking forward to May of 2024 when I play my Earth Brute playmat.
I don't think, if that does happen, if that is a thing, it'd be way before that, because you get it in the Savage Lands. It'll be like when Thrall went to being like a Shaman plus, right? It's that's Earth Brute in this case.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, well, sure, but that's the. I am interested in if they're going to dual class something else, which I think that, like, it was said that they weren't going to do that for a while, but it'd be interesting though to see a light Runeblade. If there's a redeemed Viserai, and then Arknight Shard is suddenly $1 billion, but neither here nor there. You could make it young only, I guess.
I want a Shadow Wizard.
Yep. You are a bad person sometimes. You know that, right?
I am, yeah.
Because now we're just going to hear the Wiz kids sitting in our fucking Discord talking about Shadow Wizards the same way that the Brute Squad will not leave alone the Earth Brute conversation.
Dude, Shadow Wizard would be so cool if you could cast your spells from Blood Debt.
That sounds so
like you
terrifying.
Your Warlock fantasy, man. You're just like, whatever.
I guess, man. Like, that's a lot. Moving on a little bit. Content creator appreciation kits went out. That was brought up to us by Alex Norville when he was on the show. So that's cool that they finally sent those out. It looks like they have some really sweet stuff in them. But we wouldn't know that firsthand, would we?
Hold on. I'm sticking to this for the bit. Nope, not in this hand either. Definitely no content creation appreciation kit in this hand, but for those who are listening and not watching on YouTube, I'm holding up my bad arm just to show you. Definitely didn't get one for either hand. That water bottle does look sweet though.
Looks great. There's a water bottle, a random playmat. It looked like from like some prize wall playmat type stuff. The oversized dice that everybody was clamoring for that they use on streams.
Yeah, the dice too.
Yeah, they got the dice. And then a special a special promo for all the content creators. Definitely some cool stuff in there. Very happy for everybody that was selected to get one. It looks like some really cool stuff to give away. So please look out for your favorite content creator to be giving those away. Unless we are your favorite content creator, then don't. But I am genuinely happy for everybody that was selected. Y'all did great work.
If you don't get a chance to win one, just try to bum a ride from Carolina at an event, and you'll probably find it on the floor of her car at some point.
That's possible. That is distinctly possible.
This isn't even like against her. Like I've been with her at an event and seen her open her trunk, and there are just like a smattering of Majestics. And I'm just like, why is this? And she's like, I don't know. I don't even know what's in here.
Yeah, she cleaned out her trunk once, and I think she found like 2 CNCs and Light and Strike, a couple of Legos. Like, it was just like, what the fuck? Are you okay? I guess. She's getting a lot of run on this show this week, so that's good for her, I guess. But I think that she's going to be very possessive of that water bottle. I'm pretty sure she definitely wanted one of those.
Yeah, I know. It looks really cool, though.
It does. I mean, it looks great, but at the same time, you know, while we're disappointed, I mean, I guess I shouldn't speak to you for you, but I am very disappointed that we were not deemed good enough. I guess is the best way for me to put it to make the list. But I am still very happy for everybody that was. They do great work, and that is, while it's not the reason that we do this show, because we do this show because we love to do this show and we love the people that listen to it. It would be nice to be recognized. However, apparently that's not in the cards for us, probably because I say fuck too much. It is what it is. Although there are people that say way more out of pocket shit than me. So there is that too.
I don't have any feelings about it because I'm just chronically used to not being recognized. So this is something I just I'm at home with. Like you were only born in or you were only adopted to disappointment. I was born in it, molded by it.
Oh my god!
Love Bane voice.
But is it going to be Bane voice from the movie or Bane voice from the Harley Quinn animated series? Because that's my favorite Bane voice. Is that one?
It's going to be Mick Bane.
It's going to be Mick Bane? Okay, it's going to be Mick Bane. It's Rainier Wolfcastle. That's even better. Even better.
I need that, but through the thing that does the Bane voice changing from the movie to like hit the top tier. I need Mick Bane through the Bane voice changer.
We need Mick Bane through Tom Hardy's voice changer. So we need Rainier Wolfcastle as Mick Bane through Tom Hardy's voice changer as Bane to create the perfect inception of the Bane voice, which is funny because Tom Hardy was also in the movie Inception. So we have gone so fucking far down the rabbit hole on this one. I'm very proud of us. We got there. We did it.
Yeah.
Very happy for how absolutely soul-crushingly stupid that entire conversation was. And I'm going to blame it on the drugs, but I'm really hoping that you're going to tell me that the drugs had nothing to do with it.
Drugs had nothing to do with it. I am 100% clear, focused. Let me prove it to you. Are you ready? Again,
I'm ready.
I feel bad because like I know that most people listen to this, and so not a lot of people watch YouTube. But here we go.
No, we do have a decent number that watch YouTube.
We're gonna commit to the bit, or we're gonna raise this arm up again. This is for Flake. I want you to know that every moment of pain that I'm experiencing right now, as I struggle to do this, is worth it.
Are you doing it as hard as you can? Is this an ignog moment from Aqua Teen? Like,
I'm doing it as hard as the screw and the button that are surgically attaching my tendon to my bone will let me.
Jesus fucking Christ.
All right, but I love you, Flake.
Fantastic. Something was brought to my attention this week as well. Apparently, because I am just a fucking moron and I can't keep track of shit most weeks, I was reminded that we actually have a speakeasy ticket to give away for the Pittsburgh Brawl. And I have prepared no contest for this. Absolutely zero. It was mentioned and I went, well, shit. So we have one to give away for this. We have one to give away for the Pittsburgh Brawl, for the Salt Lake City Brawl, and for the Q4 event in Columbus. So there will be a contest of some sort for each one of them. This one's going to be the easiest fucking contest of your life. All you have to do to be entered is to DM me or send an email to fleshandpod@gmail.com and say, hey, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh. I want to go to the speakeasy. That's it. The DM can be on Twitter. It can be on Discord. It can be, again, an email. If you have my phone number, you can text message me. There is any number of ways for you to reach out to me directly and tell me, hey, I'm going to the Pittsburgh Brawl. I need a speakeasy ticket. And then I'm going to spin a fucking wheel with all your names on it. And wherever it lands, unless it lands on somebody I don't like. But no, I'd still do it. The integrity of the contest matters too much to me. I'm going to spin a fucking wheel. And wherever that wheel lands is who gets the ticket. That's it. So if it is one of the West Virginia crew that wants it, send me a DM. If it's somebody from, the Michiganders, if it's the Yinzers, if it's the New Jersey Squadron, from the rugged lands of Shaolin, I don't fucking care. Just whoever sends me that message, you send it to me saying, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh for the Brawl, and I need a speakeasy ticket. That's all you got to do. Easiest shit you've ever done. Free ticket. Do the thing.
You're going to walk outside on your way to work tomorrow, and you're going to look to the sky. Home. You're going to look to the sky. There's going to be a plane skywriting. I'm going to the Brawl. I want a ticket.
Then they win.
But then whoever paid for it will forgot to have signed their name. And so you just be like, oh.
I mean, at that point in time.
Then you'll get it in Morse code. You'll get it in smoke signals. And everyone will just keep forgetting to sign their name. And so you'll have to give it to me.
You're going.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Anyway. Yeah, okay. So we're going to just announce that on next week's show because running out of time to give it away, I guess. So you have until this show is going to come out on the 18th, God willing. So I'm going to need you to have DM me by Friday, the 21st of April. Friday the 21st. And then I will pick a winner. I will send the deets to that winner. I'll send that winner hey, you got the speakeasy ticket. And then we'll announce the winner to the world on our next show, which will be the show before Pittsburgh, at which both of us will be present. Sorry, not Pittsburgh, Baltimore. We'll both be present in Baltimore. So let's extend our contest deadline just a little bit. I'm going to give you guys until, let's call it the 25th. You have until the 25th of April to send me that message. New rules, 25th of April. So the week before.
You have
Baltimore.
Until I get my sutures out.
Correct. The minute his sutures come out, the contest is over. As soon as he has, that wound is sealed, contest ends. Those are the rules. Done. We did it. Did they use the dissolving sutures? No,
not for this, because this was a rather large incision. It was like actually a square incision.
I thought it was only supposed to be a little one.
No, they had to go centimeters. Well, it's 4 by 4 centimeters. Because they had to when they do the drill through my bone to attach the button, it also wasn't just a straight hole. The way he explained it is they actually create almost like a champagne glass, it's like a funnel that
goes
that goes smaller because of the way they pull the the tendon down in with the string through there, and they needed more space to work. So,
Well, that's different. Okay.
yeah.
Did they then skin graft it, or
I have no
just
idea.
sutured it? Oh,
I mean,
seen it.
I know that I will get sutures removed at some point, but I don't know whether they grafted or just sutured it or what. I was told that he felt confident he did not mess up my tattoo, so as long as that happened, I don't care. Like, I could take this thing off and like I could have a patch that's just blue as long as he didn't mess up my ink. Like, turn me into Beast. Start calling me Hank McCoy. I don't care.
People would still then think that you're just like the Thing or Hulk.
No,
like,
they would call me Wolverine because we have the same haircut.
Yeah, same haircut. Yeah. That makes sense too. Like shit. Like they'd still get
like, hey, aren't you Canadian superstar Puck? And I'd be like,
oh, you're the Wendigo. Nope.
Yeah,
nope. Sasquatch. Nope, that's not it either. Like, you just get called all the wrong things. Why is there not a Puck in Marvel Snap yet? I would love to have a Puck.
I'd like to have like any Alpha Flight, honestly.
Well, Snowbird's there now.
Yeah, well, Snow Guard,
I guess. Yeah. And then maybe
they'll
get like Vindicator. And
I stand by my number one complaint of the game in general right now is that while many of the characters feel close to the actual character, there's not enough cool team mechanics.
That's true.
Playing the Fantastic Four, like if you're a big Fantastic Four fan, you're never playing the four of them together. They do nothing for each other.
Yeah.
There are literally 4 different deck archetypes. And it's like the same thing. It's not like, oh, I can have my cool X-Men deck. Oh, I can have my, Avengers. Like Avengers has like a pseudo theme, but it's not really. And so like that's kind of a bummer. And so like, not only do I want the Alpha Flight characters, but I think it'd be cool to just be like, hey, here's my Alpha Flight deck. But
sure. Yeah. I mean, I could see that. I had thought about that, and it's like, but I think the most perfect flavors on a card so far is Gambit, because you're literally throwing a card to destroy a card. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
But there is no reward for playing. Well, there's no reward for playing Cyclops in a deck, full stop. But there's no reward at all for playing like X-Men together. It just isn't a thing.
Right.
Which is sad. But there's no reward for Cyclops because Cyclops sucks. I don't care if you're a Cyclops fan, I'm not apologizing. Fuck that dude. He's a worst goddamn character.
I like Cyclops more than most X-Men.
Wow. That's harsh. That's a lot right there to talk to. Cyclops is basically a cop.
I understand.
Oof.
I know it hurts. He is basically a cop, but he's also I think that he catches a lot of flack because he is what Xavier really is, but he's just the face of it.
But he's the worst fucking Summers brother by a mile.
You'll get no disagreement from me there, but like Cyclops he in my opinion, he gets a really bad rap because he, again, like you're right, he is a cop, but that's because he has to do all the stuff that Xavier is too much of a coward to like do on his own, right? Like Xavier is just like, well, I need somebody to like be hard on the team, but like I need to be, the good guy, so I'm just gonna let Cyclops like internalize this and become anal retentive and do nothing to help him through it, right? Like Cyclops, in my opinion, Cyclops is the way he is because Xavier uses him, and I think that's wrong. Like I'm empathetic to Scott. He does a lot to try to hold that team together, and he's doing in at least early years, like he's doing the best he knows how, and he's like only ever getting shit on for it. So like I feel for the guy. There are modern iterations and modern stories with Scott that not a fan. Kind of a dick in those, but like early Scott, I feel like got a really bad rap.
All right, we're not a comic book podcast, although we could easily do one of those. But We can get into this at some other time. That's fine. We're going to get out of here on this one. We had no listener questions this week. So nobody apparently had any questions for us, which is fine. I'm not judging. It just really helps with the content stream. If you guys do that, then we don't have to talk about comic books for 10 minutes.
To be fair, I looked at the Discord. There were a large number of questions that were sent, but they were to creators that got kits. So we can't answer those.
Right. Those are outside of our purview, as it were. So
I'm just joshing you.
Joshing. Okay.
Yeah.
Good use of language there, child. So we're going to go ahead and shout out our patrons. For our associate producers, we have Andy, Kenny, and May. For our executive producers on up, we have Chris, Nick D, Josh, Popo Mike, Rich, Ed, Philip, Taylor, and Trevor. If you're interested in becoming a patron, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. The link is in the show notes. There are some fucking number of tiers. I made more on there for your perusal. Just take a look. As always, you can find us on Twitter at FleshPod. You can find us. You can send us an email at fleshandpod@gmail.com. Those links are all in the show notes. You can join our Discord. That link's in the show notes. Everything, the show notes is actually full of very useful information. You should probably just look at them once in a while. I didn't even know where to find show notes until I started doing this show. So there, if you scroll in your feed in your podcast app, which if you do use a podcast app, please like, subscribe, give us 5 stars. But at the bottom of there's like a thing that has all the notes that I end up typing and then the links, and it goes there. And I didn't know that was a thing until I started doing this show. But now I know, so I feel empowered. But you can, Darick, where can they find you? Can they even find you right now? Are you even a human yet?
I am slowly becoming human once again. I don't know. I've been posting a fair amount to Twitter lately, mostly because I can't do much else. So when I am awake, like I'm dozing in and out as I heal from the surgery, but when I am awake, I've been on Twitter quite a bit. You can find me there. That's Charmer, but there's a 3 instead of an R, so it's like
that's a 3 and 7 E. There are still R's.
Or whatever. I don't know.
You're fucking high. I get it.
Just search Darick. Oh wait, no, that's spelled weird too because my parents hate me.
Tannin with 3 N's, 3 total N's,
something like that. There's an N and an N and an N and an N. Yeah, just, I'm around. The easiest way to find me is to say hello to me in Baltimore at this point. I think that's probably the best. Or just listen next week when I'm more coherent. I will say this is probably the worst show for Flesh and Pod I've done to date, but in my defense, I have not been having coffee until like today was the first day I like really started to have coffee again because of stuff that I wasn't allowed to have post-surgery, and I am not myself without coffee. So it's not even the drugs as much as it is me not having coffee.
Well, good to know. And but yes, if you have a hard time finding Darick, just find me. I'm usually much more recognizable, although somebody has called me Charmer before. I'm still fucked up by that one. But you can also find me on Twitter at Logan Peterson, shitposting, retweeting, doing those things. I'm also the person behind the Flesh and Pod Twitter, so if you see me like or say anything, and also the Flesh and Pod YouTube, which we do have a YouTube channel. That link is also in the show notes. You can watch the show and see us. You can see just how much of a hot mess Darick is right fucking now, and he is.
Compared to my normal self, I am a hot mess right now.
He is
that's
not
okay.
put together. It is a sight to behold. And but yes, so that is there too.
This is how you know I'm not put together this week. I'm wearing pants.
You're doing what now?
I'm wearing pants. I never wear pants for this show.
Why are you wearing pants?
Because I'm a hot mess, man.
You're wearing a tank top. You're wearing a tank top and pants. What the fuck?
I have pants. It's how you know things are not going well in my life.
If you put pants on, shit's wrong.
Yeah.
So I guess that's, oh, well, people, you should really know that Darick is not well right now.
Not well.
But unwell, but he'll be fine by Baltimore. So come see us in Baltimore. Come say hi. We'll have bright green shirts on at some points in time. Other times we'll just be playing our games. You can probably find us at the Realm booth. The Realm will have a booth, so we'll be hanging out there from time to time too. And we're going to be pretty omnipresent. So if you want to say hi, just come on up and say whatever you want to say to us. Really, you can say a fan of the show. You can say you guys are fucking idiots. You can spit in my face. I have a tendency to get violent if that happens. Please don't spit in my face. But that's also untrue. We would just have a conversation. I've turned into like that guy that always just like tries to talk through things first. I don't know when that happened either.
I need you to know that I do not have conversations. I have a new titanium elbow and I will be happy to use it.
Jesus Christ. He has become a pro wrestling heel. That's good. So yes, please like, subscribe wherever you find us. And if you don't like us, tell us why. But either way, please come say hi. We like all of you people and really do enjoy.
What do you mean by you people?
You know what I mean by you people, the fappers. Right. And which, how did So feel when she found out that our listeners deigned themselves fappers?
She's coming
to terms with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's just like questioning decision making, but she probably knew that it was going to be something punny and silly anyway. I still think that pod people also has a ring to it, but
it does. But I think there are a lot of pod people out there, and well, there's also a lot of fappers out there. Let's be honest. Just please don't do it in the movie theater. With that being said, we're going to get out of here. So we'll talk to you all next week, and hopefully see you in Baltimore. Bye.